Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Michelle Morris with Consolidated Planning Group, CPG. That's why my name says that. That's our little abbreviation there for Consolidated Planning Group. A few things, housekeeping items before we dig into this webinar. Um, Rosa says she hears an echo. If anyone else hears echoey, let me know. And if Rosa, if nobody else is hearing an echo, it might be that you're logged in twice or something. You might need to go out and rejoin the webinar. Hmm. Okay, so a few things, like I said, before we get started, I want everyone to know that we do record all of these webinars. And after we're done presenting, we put them onto our YouTube channel. So if you miss out today for any reason, or you have to leave early, you're welcome to go over to our YouTube channel and watch the video there. Later on today, you'll receive a link to that in your email, and you will also receive the slides from today's presentation. So you'll have the slides and the link to the recording, and of course, our contact information, so you can reach out to us for any extra help or additional questions that we can't get to today. Again, please put your questions and comments into the chat box. I can't see or hear you because we're in webinar mode, but I can read your questions while I'm presenting the information. So that is very helpful if you'll just put your questions and comments there. You'll get the recording. Oh, if you are watching or listening on our YouTube channel or our podcast already, and you have not pre-registered for this webinar, you're not going to get the email that has the slides and the link to the recording. But if you want that information, all you need to do is contact us and we will send the slides to you. That email address is contact@cpgcares.net. Okay, so today we're going to be really focusing in on the Medicaid waiver programs. There's so much information about them. And, sometimes people haven't even heard what that is all about and how they can help your families. So we're here to dig into that a little bit today. First of all, Consolidated Planning Group is a holistic financial planning firm located just outside of Houston, Texas. But we serve families all across the United States. It does not matter where you live, as long as it's in the US, we can help you. So feel free to share these webinars and our contact information with anyone you know in the United States who might benefit from this information. We not only focus on serving the special needs community because that's what we do for work, but the reason we do this is because we are parents of family members and loved ones with needs. The owners of our company have 4 children altogether, and 3 of them have needs. Myself and my husband have 2 children, and one of them has needs. So we live this and breathe this. We have over 30 years of experience, fully licensed in insurance and securities, financial investments. Of course, I have 25 years of experience of being a parent to loved ones, and my colleagues have many, many years as well. Not only do we live it and breathe it, but we educate ourselves as much as possible and stay up to date on the news and issues that affect our community. We are members of the Special Needs Planning Academy. We are chartered special needs consultants, and we are nationally certified Social Security advisors. We take this very, very seriously so that we can really focus on your family's unique situation. And people come to us for things like lifetime care plans, protection plans. We help give you that peace of mind of knowing that you're headed in the right direction and you have a roadmap backing your journey. We help with transition planning, ABLE accounts, the future cost of care estimation. We can even help you figure out when and how to sign up for your state and federal benefits. There are tons of local resources that we can help you find, but those state and federal benefits are huge. And we know how to get you signed up for all of those and when and what the criteria are. And again, we're here to advocate for you and to educate you. And I feel like I really appreciate everyone who comes to these webinars, whether you come to one or two or 20 or 30. I love it because I personally believe, as a former teacher, that an educated community is a stronger community. And the more that we can be here to educate you, the stronger our entire community is going to be. So thank you for being here with us. And there are a lot of people out there who have kind of a helpful heart and they want to help you and they might know a little, but they might know just enough to be dangerous. And, even though there are good-hearted people out there who are trying to be helpful, they don't know necessarily all of the circumstances surrounding your family or your loved one's needs and abilities and the rules and regulations that surround these different programs. So maybe you'll have someone trying to help you and they say, well, my son has autism and your son has autism. They should both be on the same benefits. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't always work that way. The thing is that when you are with Consolidated Planning Group, we are true experts in this area. And out of all the financial advisors in the United States, there's over 263,000 of them. But out of all those 263,000 financial advisors in the US, fewer than 200 focus on special needs planning the way that we do at Consolidated Planning Group. That's less than 0.1%. So we are experts in the field. We are kind of rare in what we do and who we serve. And we are here to support you. So a few bits of information before we jump into the waiver programs. Think about what's going to happen after high school. And there's no too early time frame to be thinking about this and to be planning for the future of your loved one. Now, there are small things that you can do when you have a long runway that will help your changes seem small, but the impacts will be large because you're riding the ship as you go, or the plane, I guess, in this analogy. Think about what's going to happen after high school. You don't necessarily want your loved one just to graduate to the couch to play video games or be on their tablet. So what is going to happen? There are educational options beyond high school. There are residential and transition and day programs. There's even work programs for our loved ones that can be very, very helpful. Now, these programs and opportunities might have waiting lists, and you definitely would want to go tour their programs and facilities and communities to make sure that this is something that would be a good fit for your family. So think about those things early and plan ahead. Finally, you need to plan what is going to happen to your loved one when you're not able to take care of them anymore. And that's, one of the things that we really help families focus on, in addition to finding these supports and resources for the family, but helping you think through what will it take for your loved one to be taken care of after you're gone. We help families sleep a lot better at night knowing that the planning is done, the pieces are in place, and all you have to do really is work your plan and everything will go smoothly. So today, as we're talking about the Medicaid waiver programs, we're going to cover a little bit about what they are and what they do, what are the different waivers and who is eligible, and how do you apply? These are the main questions that I really wanted to answer with putting together this webinar. But as we go through, like I said before, any questions or comments you have, please put them in the chat box. Now, last thing I'll say is I know that my Zoom has some pretty good noise canceling features, but I do have a large dog who's a little nervous about the weather getting darker outside, and he's pacing and whining a little bit. So if you happen to hear that in the background, my apologies. I promise he's okay. He just doesn't like the storms. Okay, so A lot of confusion is centered around the timeline of how these different programs come into play throughout your loved one's life. So let's talk first about the timeline for these things. At some point in your child's life, you're going to notice that something's different, or someone will notice, and you are going to end up with a diagnosis. As soon as you have that diagnosis, or, even if you think that there's something different with your child, I would go ahead and apply for the state waiver programs. As soon as I knew that there was anything that might uh, create a need for the waivers, simply because the waiting list is so long. Right now, that wait is between 17 to 20 years. So as soon as you know that there's a need, you should get on that waiting list. Now, when you're working with your doctors, you do want to make sure that your diagnosis or your child's diagnosis is very well documented, and not just things like my child has autism, but what does that mean? What does that look like in their daily life? This documentation is really going to help in the future when you need proof that your child has these diagnoses and qualifies as being disabled under the eyes of Social Security. So, two very important things up front: work with your doctor to get documentation of your child's life and what their diagnosis means for them, how it impacts them, and get on the waiver waiting lists. Now, later on down the road, hopefully your children were on the waiting list when they were young. If not, just do it now. That's fine. But eventually, your child will qualify for SSI benefits. That usually happens when your child turns 18, because the rules, the regulations are that you can only have a very limited amount of income, and you can only have a very limited amount of assets. And if your child is under 18 years old, they count the parent's income and assets as the child. Most people have more than that, so their child will not qualify for SSI until they turn 18 years old. When your child turns 18 and is legally an adult, the Social Security Department is going to look at their own assets and income and not the parents anymore. So at that point, we can help our child control what their assets look like and where they're held and how much money the kid is making and all of those things to be able to make sure that they qualify. So hopefully when your child turns 18, they will receive SSI benefits. That also comes with Medicaid, and they'll be on SSI and Medicaid for several years until they can switch to SSDI, or Childhood Disability Benefits. For many, many years, this was called DAC, Disabled Adult Child. Now they call it Childhood Disability Benefits. Some people just refer to it all as SSDI, and there's nothing wrong with any of those titles. But that comes along later in life when a parent turns on their Social Security. So if I, as a parent, turn on my Social Security retirement benefits when I'm in my late 60s, my child will receive a benefit that is about half of what I get. And then when I pass away, it's going to go up to about 75% of what mine was. And my child will get that for the rest of their life. Not only that, but after they've been on SSDI for 2 years, they are going to receive Medicare in addition to Medicaid. So what's going to happen? 18 years old, my child gets on the SSI, they get Medicaid. Several years down the road, my Social Security gets turned on by either me turning on my benefits or me becoming disabled and turning on my own Social Security disability, or if I were to pass away. At that point, the child comes off SSI and switches to SSDI. They keep Medicaid and they become eligible for Medicare, and then they will be dual eligible. There are certain circumstances when SSDI gets turned on before SSI. And that's not ideal, but sometimes it is unavoidable. For example, this person, Kathy, just put in the chat box, my husband and I draw Social Security. We're raising our 8-year-old granddaughter and we have legal custody. So can she receive the SSDI benefits? If you have legal custody of her, you should be able to. It might require that you actually adopt her. I would check with an attorney on that. But the thing is that if you skip to SSDI without first having SSI and Medicaid in place, you could lock your child out of getting Medicaid. And that could be a problem because if you don't have Medicaid, you can't get the waiver programs. So I would, if I were you, Kathy, speak with us. We can walk you through. Also, if a person is a teacher, thank you, Rosa. Teachers don't necessarily always pay into Social Security. They pay into a teacher retirement system, TRS, and they have a TRS account. There are different rules, but your child will still be able to take advantage of these benefits. And again, for those more personal custom questions that need us to look more into your family's specific situation, we are happy to schedule a free consultation. So let's talk about first things first. Let's get on the waiver waiting list because I've already mentioned that these lists are so long that you want to get on the waiting list as soon as possible. Now, there is an 877 number listed here for MDCP, class, and DBMD. You're going to need to call this 877-438-5658. Now, you might be thinking, well, I don't even know if I qualify for those. We're going to go into each of the waiver programs and what they do and who would qualify. But I would say that the class waiver is so broad and serves so many people that everyone here should call that phone number and get registered with at least class. So everyone here should be making a phone call to that 877 number. Now, the second bullet point for waivers like HCS, Texas Home Living, and Community First Choice, you need to call your LIDA. That is your local intellectual and developmental disability authority, your LIDA. That would be something like MHMR, Bluebonnet, Texana, the Harris Center, ACOG, Tri-County Behavioral. There's a lot of them, but if any of those sound familiar, that's your LIDA. If you don't know who your local authority is, your LIDA, you can go to this link right here, or you can just call 211 and they will tell you who your LIDA is. So again, you must call your local authority and tell them you want to get on all of their waiting lists for the waiver programs. The third number on here is not for everybody. This is the only one that not everybody will need to call, and that is Star Plus. So Star Plus is for our loved ones who are 21 years and older. So the waiting list is a lot shorter for Star Plus. Many people just automatically transition to Star Plus if they were already on a different program like Star Kids or MDCP. So if your child is 21 or almost 21, you do want to call 877-782-6440 and ask to be put on the Star Plus interest list. Now, after you have called these phone numbers and they get to your child in the system, they're going to set up a profile for them on yourtexasbenefits.com. You're going to make this profile and set it up under your child's name as if you were them doing this, right? So Jacob Morris lives at 1234 Made Up Avenue. Put your child's information in the registration. And then you can go in and look under manage interest lists, and you can see where you are on the waiting list. So again, that is yourtexasbenefits.com. You can use this to sign up for other benefits that might be available for your family, like SNAP or TANF. But you can also see on the waiting lists where you are. And yeah, if you're still having echoing, it might be playing in two different places for you. I think it might be a computer problem for the audience, not for me. Okay, if you're on Star Plus, do they keep up with the waiver number? Do they put you on that Your Texas Benefits site? I'm not sure, but most of them do. Otherwise, you can just call that number and ask where you are on the waiting list. Okay, so everybody here needs to make at least 2 phone calls, maybe 3. We're going to dig into which waivers are going to be best for your family. But what you need to know really is that when we say it's a waiver, that's because the parental income is waived. They don't look at that to give you these benefits and services like they would with traditional Medicaid or SSI. They don't count the parent's income or assets. And the eligibility for these programs is based solely on the child's personal income. If a child is enrolled in a waiver program, they automatically get full Texas Medicaid health benefits. Even if you already have private life insurance or health insurance, you still get Medicaid. Now, there are certain programs where you have to have Medicaid first, and we're going to talk about those. So, what can you use these waivers for? Why do you want them? Well, they cover things that might not be covered by your private insurance and traditional Medicaid, like respite care. Oh, the golden words, respite care. Problem with respite care, of course, is that not only do you need to wait for the program that is going to be able to help pay for it, but you have to find someone who will accept that pay that they provide and be available to help you. And that becomes a little bit of a challenge. I know that, receiving the waiver program is not the cure-all. It is good. But, finding someone to actually help with the respite care might be an issue. You can get home and vehicle modifications done. So if you need a ramp or rails or wheelchair lifts or things like that, for your home modification, I know that they will give you that $7,500, and that's a one-time home modification. I don't know if the vehicle modification works the same way, but the good news is that once you sign up and you get a waiver program, you also get a case manager who can help you look at all of the benefits and what's available and make sure that you're taking advantage of everything you're entitled to. It can help pay for specialized therapy, music therapy, art, massage, horse, recreational therapy, any of those kinds of things. It can help pay for communication devices, adaptive aids, any specialized medical equipment like a wheelchair or anything like that that your child might need. And some waiver programs can really help by paying for housing for our loved ones. So that's really important because housing is such a large part of taking care of a person and such an expensive part that having support to take care of the housing for your child really helps lower the amount that you need to leave for them when you pass away. And, in providing that same level of care that they're used to. Okay, so these general waiver programs are available pretty much to most people. And these are going to be the ones with the longest wait lists. The reason is because they serve so many people. Of course, the wait list is going to be longer. For example, Home and Community-Based Services, CLASS. CLASS stands for Community Living Assistance. So this gives home and community-based services to people with related conditions, as an alternative to be able to help keep you in your home or in your community and not have to go to a residential facility or a state-run program or something like that. You have to have an intellectual disability or a related condition. And there are over 200 different related conditions that they consider. Now, you have to have something that began before age 22 for the class waiver. And it has to have an impact on your ability or your loved one's ability to function in daily life. Now, HCS, again, home and community-based services, but this one gives supports and services to children and adults with an intellectual disability. So with class, it could be an intellectual disability or a related condition. For HCS, there has to be an intellectual disability or a related condition. And these people have to live in their own homes or with their families or in a small group home. As long as there's not more than 4 people in the group home, HCS can help, and they can help pay for that group home. Community first choice. That's the next one. It covers a broad range of people. They help provide attendance supports and supports to people who are Medicaid recipients with disabilities. They can help with activities of daily living and hands-on assistance for their health-related tasks. So if you think about, cooking for themselves, making sure their medications are in order, toileting, transferring, bathing, eating, those activities of daily living. They use a managed care organization. That's who Community First Choice works through. And generally, you as the parent or caregiver would help choose the services that you get through Community First Choice. And then finally, Texas Home Living, the last big, broad, general waiver program. They're helping to give services to children and adults with an intellectual disability or a related condition who live in their own home or their family's home. So you can see these are kind of similar. There are differences, and we're going to get into what the differences are in these 4 popular programs. I do see a question, and then we're going to get into the more narrow programs, and then we'll talk more. So do we have to have a medical doctor officially diagnose them to get any benefits? As of now, all I have is a diagnosis from the educational diagnostician from his school. Well, Heather, I would say that a medical diagnosis is always going to be helpful, and not just for the waiver programs, but also for getting SSI later on in life. SSI is a little bit more stringent on making sure that the child actually deserves these benefits than the waiver programs. Now, one thing about the waiver programs is that you do not have to prove that your child qualifies when you put them on the list. You only have to prove that they qualify when their name comes up for services. And the waiver programs themselves, through your local authority or through the programs, will help make sure that you qualify before they provide you with those services. But I would definitely suggest a doctor's opinion and a medical diagnosis is going to get you further in life down the road and is going to be necessary. So you might as well go ahead and do it. Okay, so some of the more specialized waiver programs, these do not everybody qualifies for these, and they really serve a narrower range of people. That also means, though, that the waiting lists for these 4 programs are much shorter. DBMD is the first one here. That stands for Deaf, Blind with Multiple Disabilities. And this is a 3-part waiver program. So not only does your loved one have to be deaf and blind or have a disease that is going to cause them to become completely deaf and blind, both, but they also have to have another related condition, another disability in addition to the deaf blindness. MDCP, MDCP is specifically for children who are medically dependent. That means they have to be 20 years or younger. They have to be medically fragile. And this is going to help them stay at home and in the community instead of going to a nursing home or some kind of a place like that. MDCP is the one waiver where I have seen, people will apply for it and the program will come back and say, your child is not fragile enough to get MDCP. That's something that I've heard a lot. So you might want to revert back to one of those other general programs that we talked about on the last slide. Yes. Now, a yes waiver. This program is for children age 19 or under who have a mental, emotional, or behavioral difficulty as their primary diagnosis. Most children have, Down syndrome, and they also have ADHD and autism and maybe a depression or something comes along with all those other diagnoses. The yes waiver is for someone whose main diagnosis is something like bipolar disorder or schizophrenia or something behavioral, mental, and emotionally related. Star Plus, again, this is for people who are 21 and older so that they can keep in their community and not have to go to a nursing home or a facility. Generally, when you're on MDCP, you'll automatically move over to Star Plus. Sometimes there's also HCBS. They might call it the same thing, but Star Plus Home and Community-Based Services is kind of all wrapped into one long title. I see a comment in the chat box. Glorianne says, my opinion is going to Texas Children's Medical Center to get exams to verify. They did great. So yeah, it always really helps to find a good diagnosis, a doctor, as well as the information from the school. And you can use all of that information to build an overall picture of what your child's life looks like. And that's going to be able to help them get the supports that they need and services that you need for them. Okay, so now I want to dig into those top 4 waiver programs and see what some of the differences are. CLASS is known for having the longest, broadest list of who they can help. So you can expect that it is going to be one of the longest waiting periods for the CLASS waiver programs. It is for people of all ages, as long as you have a disability that started before you were 22 years old, and that diagnosis affects your daily functioning. The key benefit is that it's very, very flexible and can provide all kinds of supports like massage therapy, things that your private insurance usually won't cover, music therapy, even hippotherapy, which is not hippos, it's horses, horseback riding therapy. Unlike HCS, CLASS does not offer group home placement. If you're looking for a waiver that's going to help place you into a group home and pay for that, that would be the HCS waiver. CLASS is strictly for helping people who are going to be living in their own family homes. Kim points out in the chat box that there's also one called Home and Community-Based Services Adult Mental Health. So there are different sections in some, or subsections, I guess, in some of these waiver programs. HCS is kind of known for being the most comprehensive, the deepest pockets. This is kind of like the luxury car of the waiver programs. HCS is for people of all ages with an intellectual disability, which means IQ of 70 or below, or a related condition with an IQ up to 75. So this one, HCS looks at their IQ. If the IQ is 75 or below and they have another condition, they're going to be okay for HCS. If their IQ is 70 or below, they don't need to have another condition. That intellectual disability is enough to be able to get them on this waiver. Now, the huge benefit for the HCS program is that it helps with housing. You can live in your own home, you can live in a host home, or you can live in a small 4-person group home. It is managed by your LIDA, or your local intellectual and developmental disability authority. Whatever your county is in charge of HCS. Now, Texas Home Living is kind of HCS light because this is for families where you already have Medicaid, but you still need some extra support. You don't need as much help as HCS. You already live in your own home. You don't need that higher level of funding because you don't need a host home or a group home. It has a capped annual budget of about $17,000 to $20,000 a year for the services that they provide. And you have to already be on Medicaid to get a Texas Home Living spot. But again, this, it's not one of those huge waivers. They're not going to be paying your family hundreds of thousands of dollars. But if you don't need that much help or you can't qualify for that much help, Texas Home Living is a great option. Yuri wants to know, is there a waiver that will give you host home and personal services? Yes, there are definitely waivers that do that. And here you go. Perfect timing for that question, Yuri. The CFC, Community First Choice Waiver. This is a little bit different because it's called an entitlement option. It is a federally mandated program. If your child qualifies, sorry about that. If your child qualifies, the state has to provide services, and they're not even supposed to be on a waiting list. So CFC, Community First Choice, is for people who are already on Medicaid. So if you get Medicaid because you're on SSI, or because you're using the Medicaid Buy-in for Children program, or any other state plan that has Medicaid, then you can have Community First Choice. You have to meet the institutional level of care guidelines. That's the intermediate care facility, IID terminology that you might see. And you must need help with your activities of daily living. You have to require assistance for them to be able to provide you with this assistance. And that's things, again, like eating, dressing, bathing, toilet, transferring, I forget the others, but all of those activities of daily living. They will provide you with these core 4 essential services to help your child remain in your home. Personal assistance, PAS hours, hands-on help with hygiene or meal prep, light chores. They will give HAB hours, habilitation. That's helping your child learn about things like money management, how to care for themselves, how to interact socially. They help emergency response preparedness, so they can have electronic backup systems for when a caregiver isn't present. When you're not there and you have to have all of this emergency response, what's going to happen? And there's also support management. They help train you and guide you in hiring your own attendants. And that takes some of the weight off of them to be able to provide these services. Now, this is not really, like I said, not really a waiver, but it is a Medicaid benefit. And you can stay on the other waiting lists while you're on Community First Choice. As a matter of fact, anytime your name comes up for a waiver, hey, guess what? You get the class waiver. Your name has come up on the list. We approve you. You're good to go. You can still keep your names on the other waiver program waiting list. And when your name comes up for HCS or something else, you can determine, would that be a better option for us, or should we stay where we are? You have that choice. There is not a wait list for Community First Choice. Now, you do have to wait to try to find attendance sometimes, but at least, there is going to be some support here while you wait for the other waiver services. And they are managed locally through your LIDA, your local intellectual authority, and you use a managed care organization on them. Jennifer says that she used to work at a local authority, a LIDA, and typically to be eligible for HCS and Texas Home Living, you need a diagnosis from a medical doctor with a certain code and the school evaluation. Usually an FIE or REED, with all that information, your local authority will do their determination and figure out if after that evaluation you deserve or you qualify for those programs. Okay, so let's say Michelle inhales her sorry. Let's say you're on these waiting lists and you're waiting for your name to come up. You're waiting 17 to 20 years. Maybe you've got Medicaid, so you've signed up for CFC, Community Choice, Community First Choice. But there are other options while you're waiting to get some kind of a coverage for that time period while you have nothing. You can use the Medicaid Buy-in for Children program. That allows middle income families to buy into Medicaid at a reduced premium if your child is disabled. Now, so what I'm saying is your child can qualify for SSI if your income and your assets are low enough. But most families don't have that level of need, so they don't qualify for SSI. So if your living situation is good enough that you can't qualify for SSI, but you also maybe don't have health insurance or you can't pay all your bills, they can help you out with this Medicaid buy-in program, especially, children who need a lot of health care. And parents are just struggling out there. We get it. We know how that is. There's also Texas Health Steps. I'm sorry, for the Medicaid buy-in, you would talk to your local authority or call 211 and ask about that. 211 is going to take you to Health and Human Services and talk to them about the Medicaid buy-in program. Now, there's also Texas Health Steps. They provide medical and dental checkups and case management for children who are already on Medicaid. So if you're on Medicaid, but you feel like you're not getting enough just from being on Medicaid, try Texas Health Steps at 877-847-8377. Okay, so we've talked about the help that you can get by waiting for 17 to 20 years or 10 to 12 years for some waivers, or the short-term help that you can get if you need it quicker, like the Medicaid buy-in program. But what if your situation is dire and you need help right now? There is something called a crisis diversion spot for families. You're going to contact your local LIDA crisis hotline. They usually have a different phone number for this. And basically, this is for families that are facing an extreme, immediate circumstance that requires that they need help right now, or else your child would be at risk for institutionalization. And I know that this sounds like a lot, but this is a lot. And this is meant for people who are going through a lot. You have to call your local authority, ask for a crisis diversion spot, tell them what's going on, and use the trigger words, that you are at risk of institutionalization. If I cannot get help, I am going to need to have someone take my child and take care of them. Now, you're going to have to stay involved with this process and reach out to them if it's moving too slowly. If you don't feel like you're getting the answers you need, you can reach out to us and we can give you some more resources. But this is for things like, what if your child's health starts to deteriorate or their mental health starts to deteriorate? It's too hard now for you to be able to pay the bills and take care of them and work and everything else, and you just can't make it work? What if the child starts to self-harm or threaten to run away? Or they're getting so big as a male teenager with a behavioral issue that they overpower you. Those are circumstances where you might be able to get a crisis diversion spot. What if you or your spouse becomes disabled and now one spouse is taking care of the other and the child, or one spouse passes away? If you don't have planning in place to deal with that, it can be catastrophic and you might need a crisis diversion spot. If you are in a bad situation like that, don't miss it. Don't miss your opportunity to bypass that waiting list. And typically what they'll do is they'll just push you to the front of the waiting list for the HCS waiver and get you those services right away. Now, please continue to put your questions and comments in the chat box. I just have a few more slides to go through, and we have about 15 minutes left. So I'm in no rush if you have any questions that you've been thinking about. But this is a list of some of the things that we talk about in our webinars and some of the things that we help families with every single day. How to develop a future cost of care estimate. What amount of money is needed so that your loved one will be able to experience the same level of care after you're gone as they have experienced while you were here taking care of them? How can you protect them if you become disabled or pass away? We talk to families about SSI and SSDI and when and how these programs work and how to sign up for them, what forms you're going to need, and how to get approved first time around rather than having to appeal. We can set up an ABLE account. We can help you understand why do you need an ABLE account and a special needs trust and the waiver programs, and how does the money flow through all of these different items? What do they all mean? And how does it really work in practice, not just in explanation? We talk about that special needs trust. What kind do you need? What is it used for? And how are you going to fund it? We talk about what resources are available for your family. Summer camps, educational programs, vocational programs. We talk a lot with families about legal structure and legal needs. Now, we are not attorneys and we don't have one on staff. We are financial advisors, but we do keep a list of attorneys for our clients, and we keep track of the good ones around the state and around the country so that we can help guide you in finding good resources. Now, this link is going to take you to our upcoming webinars on our website. So we know everybody's super busy, especially the parents that we are working with. So we want to keep you in the loop of all of these webinars because we feel that they're really providing a service and getting educational tools out there in the hands of parents where they should be. So we post our upcoming webinars on our Facebook page. We advertise them through email, and we put them on our website. So this link will take you to those upcoming webinars. You can pre-register, and then by pre-registering, you're going to be able to get instant confirmation that, here's the link to get in there. They're going to provide you with webinar reminders, and you're going to be able to write in ahead of time when you register to ask us questions. So for example, I do have a list of questions that were submitted ahead of today's webinar. And I'm going to make sure we cover these before we finish off today. And then finally, you'll have that link. So please register ahead of time. It will help ensure that you get the email after we're done chatting with the slides and the link to the webinar. We offer a completely free consultation. So if you do have follow-up questions, or if I don't get to your question, or if you just don't want to share your question in front of a large group, I hope that you'll schedule your free consultation with us. This is on Zoom. It usually lasts between 30 to 45 minutes. And our main goal is to answer your questions, help give you some advice and some guidance in terms of what your family should be looking at doing next. And then we talk about, what we do as a company and how we can serve you if it would be a good idea for you to go forward and work with us. It is no commitment. It is low pressure. We do ask that you fill out a short 5-minute questionnaire before the meeting so that we know a little bit about you because, we don't want to walk into a meeting and not have any idea who we're meeting with or how we can help you. So we do require a short questionnaire. And not only does that help us know what we're getting into before we walk into the meeting, but it gives us some ways to be able to help you. By answering the questionnaire, we can see what stage you are in your journey and where you need help. Is there a HEAP program that helps people with insurance payment, partial or full? I'm sure there is. There are several different kinds of programs to help pay for insurance. And I don't know off the top of my head, Jay, much about those. But if you want to circle back with us, I'd be happy to do some research on that for you and put you in touch with those programs. I do see, so in the questions that came to us ahead of time, someone was asking if there are any changes in 2026 that affect special needs adults. Well, there have been several. One big change is with the ABLE account. The rule used to be that in order to have an ABLE account, you had to have a disability that started before age 26. Well, they have changed that to age 46. So you can have an ABLE account as long as you have a disability that began before age 46. Can my daughter being on a waiver and apply for SSI when she turns 18? Yes. Applying for SSI and these waiver programs are independent of each other. They should not have any impact on each other. And yes, you can be on both waivers and SSI and Medicaid or SSDI later in life. That is one reason why it is so critically important that you maintain eligibility for Medicaid. Because even if your child does not need SSI later in life, they're still going to want to have Medicaid because that provides the waiver programs. And so they're still going to have to follow those eligibility criteria for Medicaid. We've talked about the eligibility for waivers. You just have to prove that there is a disability. They don't really look at the parent's income. Some of them have age limits. Most of them do not. Again, it used to be there were income limitations. For the HEAP program. Yeah, I really don't know too much about the HEAP program, Jay, but if someone does, they can put the answer in the chat box and we'll get more info for you. Is consolidated planning group just for kids who have special needs or for adults too? We hope to serve the entire community no matter what age we're talking about. So we help adults with needs and children with needs. Generally in our planning services, we tend to work with parents to provide the resources and supports that they need to take care of the children for the rest of their lives. Now, if we're working with an adult individual with a disability, we can still help. However, one of the things, some of the stuff we do, like managing money and assets and insurance and putting together financial planning, that stuff does require jobs and investments and assets for us to be able to manage. So we would just have a different kind of plan depending on your need. And we always really work hard to customize the planning we do to the specific needs of the family. How do I protect her SSI benefits with a summer job? Well, I'm going to put that in the chat box. The monthly limit monthly income limit for SSI is $1,690 per month. If your child go above and beyond $1,690 a month in earnings, they will lose SSI. Now, if your child is blind, they can earn a little bit more, and we go through much of that in our other webinars that are focused more on those topics. Jay, thank you so much. You and your team help with great resources to many families by bringing a wealth of information for many of us. Thank you so much for all the things you do. Well, thank you for saying that. That is so sweet. Let's see if I can find another question here because we've got a few minutes left. How to sign up for the waiver programs. I hope I've answered that. Figuring out where to start. If you're just figuring out where to start, I would start with a free consultation. We can help give you direction and help say, you know what, this is where you are right now. You should start here. We can totally help you with that. I have applied for my daughter to receive benefits, DAC benefits. What do I need to do regarding Medicaid? Okay, so when you apply for benefits, if they come with Medicaid, it's usually going to come pretty much automatically. If you don't hear anything after several months from Medicaid, I would go ahead and reach out. But it's supposed to be automatic. Okay, and I think that's about it. Everything that I've looked at. Life insurance policy options. Someone wanted to ask about life insurance policy options. We do sell life insurance, so we can help you pay for or help you figure that out. What would be a good fit for you? What type of policy and how much you need. In general, you do not have life insurance on a child with a disability. You have life insurance on the parent so that it would be left to take care of the child. There's a question in the chat. When I ask for a consultation, can I choose you or Allison, or do they just assign someone to me? Typically, we just assign a person. We only have 3 people who are doing consultations right now, though, and that would be me, Allison, and my husband, Andy. So you get a 2/3 chance that you're going to get me or Allison. And Andy is just as knowledgeable as we are. He's even funnier than I am. So we're all able to help you. This is my team. Now, almost everybody is going to be calling to reach out to you and asking, do you need help? Do you have further questions? Do you have feedback on the webinar that you attended? We're not calling to harass you, and we don't want to be a bother, but we do want to make sure that your questions are answered, that you know we are here to support you, and that we schedule as many of those initial consultations as needed to make sure that our audience is served and that your questions are answered. If you don't want us to call you, then schedule your own consultation. You can call or email the office. You can use the QR code, or you can call or email me directly. I'll give you a hint, Lourdes. If you call or email me directly, I will schedule you with me because I only schedule myself when I schedule appointments. Otherwise, you can reach out to the office. You can use the QR code, but I can't guarantee who you'll get if you do that. This page also has links to our YouTube channel, Instagram, our podcast, and our Facebook page where we promote these webinars and other good information for you. So I hope to hear from you all soon. Again, schedule your free consult. Let them know I sent you. I hope that you've enjoyed this webinar and gotten a few helpful items to take away with you. And again, if you have any questions or need any further help, we're here for you. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. And happy start of summer. Last few days of school right now. I'm sure you're all hectic. So enjoy that while it's still happening. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.